Fresh calls for a new election in Brazil as the man who replaced impeached leader Dilma Rousseff now himself faces growing unpopularity. Michel Temer's approval rating, though, is still higher than Rousseff's was. Brazil's in a state of uncertainty just as the world will be focusing on it for the Olympics this summer. Let's get some analysis of the situation. Francisco Dominguez is head of Brazilian and Latin American Studies at Middlesex University. Francisco, thank you very much for joining us. I can only imagine that you, especially, are having a very interesting time these days with all these shenanigans in Brazil.
Well, it's extraordinary developments. The suspension of Dilma Rousseff was done on the basis of her not having committed any crime or responsibility. And when her defense took it to the Senate, for the Senate to consider doing an expert analysis of the actual constitutionality and legality of the decision, the commission that is organizing the investigation just refused it, out of hand. And secondly, the various people who actually were recorded saying that they were plotting to oust her because they wanted the investigation of corruption to stop. Again, Dilma's defense put it to the Senate for these tapes to be taken as part of the defense, and the Supreme Court refused it out of hand with no real reason. So what you have is something extraordinary, and that's why the country is exploding all over the place with demonstrations, more militant every single day.
It sounds like a political viper's nest. Politician after politician, senior figure after senior figure, it seems, under suspicion. Is Temer any less vulnerable than anybody else?
Well, Datafolha, which is one of the most reputed pollsters in the country, which is associated with Folha de Sao Paulo, newspaper #1 in Brazil, issued a poll recently in which indicated that Temer has 94% rate of rejection. So that's extraordinary. He started with 2% anyway, and apparently he keeps going down. He's surrounded by corruption. He is the subject of several investigations in which his name has appeared. There are about 300 people in the Congress who are investigated as a result of corruption. There is 60% and plus in the Senate that actually face the same thing. And the Temer government has actually seen 4 ministers already resign. The latest person who apparently I think is likely to fall as well is the person in charge of the Women's Secretariat, who was appointed in order to suggest to women. And what she said was this: she said she was totally against abortion. That's fine. People can have different views about that. But she said she was against abortion even if it was the result of rape. And the country was shaken by a case of rape recently that appeared on television all over the place. The women in the whole country are actually exploding. So literally every single week there is a crisis after crisis after crisis. And I think it's going to end very soon because the government is melting away. I think there's no other possible description of what is going on.
But when it ends, Francisco, who will be left with any credibility to lead the country?
Well, I think there are two possibilities. One is that they press on and the country, goes into chaos. They insist in impeaching Dilma Rousseff. Then I'm sure she's going to accept the decision, but she's going to organize people to resist it, as she's doing already. And then the Temer government is going to be in charge for the next 2 years until 2019 when there is another election. You can imagine how those 2 years are going to be. That's one possibility. And the second possibility, which I think is more likely because some people in the Senate seem to already be changing their mind, although we have to wait for the vote, in which she is restored back. And then she brings back some norms because the people who are not corrupt, she's one of them. And I think that's a possibility because otherwise the other political parties are melting away as well. The PMDB, which is the party of the mayor, seems to be under the most pressure more than any other of the political parties. And if this crisis continues, I think this party is unlikely to survive as an entity, as a political entity.
Francisco, I'm afraid we need to wrap it there. I was going to ask you about the possibility of Romario becoming president one day, perhaps, but sadly no time for that one. Maybe we'll do that one next time. Thank you very much indeed. Francisco Dominguez, the head of Brazilian and Latin American Studies at Middlesex University. Michel Temer's popularity rating down to 2%, according to Francisco. Apparently, and also a possibility, he says, of Dilma Rousseff perhaps making a comeback. We will watch with interest.